All right, so this week, it is a very short week. It is your Thanksgiving week. And while it looks like we have a lot of content to do, it's really quite simple as long as you pay attention. We have 3 goals. We're going to be able to identify each pair of angle relationships, be able to use angle relationships to find missing angles, and to be able to use angle relationships to set up and solve algebraic equations. So let's start with goal 1, being able to identify angle relationships. So, what are these angle relationships? There are 4 of them that we're going to talk about. But before we can talk about them, let's talk about our figure that we're looking at right here. So we had a vocab word last week that talked about a line that intersected 2 lines at different points. This right here, remember, it's called a transversal. And I told you, so why am I forgetting how to spell the word transversal? Transversal. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. All right, now I told you that this transversal was doing something special. And what it's doing is it's creating 2 families. So this intersection here creates this family of 4. And this intersection down here creates this family of 4. And we're talking about the relationships between these 2 families. So our first relationship we're going to talk about is called corresponding. So corresponding angles. All right, and these are going to be angles that are in the same spot / location. So what I mean by that is when we look at our 2 families, if we were to take them and merge them, which angles would match up? For example, if we took these 2 lines and we smashed them together, who would match up with 1? Well, 5 and 1 are in the same spot. So angle 5, or angle 1 and angle 5 are considered corresponding. All right, see how 2's in the top right here? 6 is in the top right here. They're matching. They would be in the same spot / same location. They are corresponding. See 3? It matches up with 7. So angle 3 and angle 7 are in the same spot / location. And 4 and 8. They are also corresponding. All right? Corresponding. Our next angle relationship we're going to talk about is alternate interior angles. All right, and the key thing to remember for alternate interior angles is that they're inside and opposite. And what I mean by inside is we're talking about between these 2 lines. This right here would be the inside. Okay, that is inside, whatever angles are between these 2 lines. And what I mean by opposite is they're going to be diagonally across from each other. So for example, angle 3 is inside, and diagonally across from it is angle 6. They would be considered alternate interior angles. 4 is also on the inside, and across from it is angle 5. They are considered alternate interior angles, okay? And that's it. Those are the only ones that are inside our 2 lines, so they're the only ones that are alternate interior angles. Okay, our next angle relationship. Alternate exterior angles. Okay, this means this time we're going to be outside and opposite. All right, so outside means we're outside our 2 lines. So this is an outside, and this is an outside. And again, opposite means they're going to be diagonally across from each other. So if we're looking at angle 1, who's on the outside, diagonally across from it on the other side is 8. And if we're looking at angle 2, diagonally across from it on the outside is 7. And that's it, because those are the only angles that are outside our two lines. And our last relationship we're going to talk about is same side / consecutive interior angles. Now, we're just going to call them same side, but consecutive would be the legitimate vocab word here, but we're going to call them same side. And since we're interior, we already know that we're inside, but this time we're going to be neighbors. Okay, we're inside and neighbors. So we're going back to our inside, and if we look at angle 3, the neighbor, who's ever on the same side as the angle. So 3 and 5 are considered neighbors. They are same side interior. Same thing over here. Hold on, I gotta turn this sideways. Oh, it looks like a hot mess. I'm so sorry. Okay. On the same side of 4 is 6. So they are considered same side interior angles. All right, so that's goal 1. Now let's go ahead and practice identifying, okay? If you need to pause to write all this down, I know it's a lot of information, go right ahead. If not, we're moving on to example 1. Remember that these are examples that you'll see on the assignment for assignment number 2. All right, identify each pair of angle relationships. So what I'm going to do is I like to go ahead and mark the angles that were given and see what's happening. So the first one here's angle X and angle Y. And I ask myself, am I inside, outside, or both? So if it helps, I'm going to write these questions up here. Inside, question mark, outside, question mark, or both, question mark. So when I look at this one, I notice that we're inside. Inside, okay? So we're dealing with interior. So next we need to ask ourselves, if it's inside, we ask ourselves, neighbors, question mark, or opposite, question mark. So when I look at this, X and Y, are they diagonally across from each other, or are they neighbors? They're neighbors. They're right next to each other. All right, so if we're inside and we're neighbors, our final answer is same side interior. Ta-da! All right, let's keep going. Let's look at the next one. So here's angle X and here's angle Y. So we're going to ask ourselves, inside, outside, or both? Well, X is outside our two lines, and so is Y. It is outside. Okay, the next thing we need to ask ourselves if we're dealing with outside is, are they opposite? Yes, they are diagonally across from each other. They are opposite. So if it's outside and opposite, our answer is alternate exterior. Yay! All right, let's look at the next one. All right, here's X and here's Y. Are we inside, outside, or both? Well, Y is on the outside of our two lines, and X is on the inside, so we're both. All right, if we're both, the next thing we need to ask ourselves is, are they in the same spot? Are they in the same spot? So let's look at this. If we put these lines together, would X and Y end up on top of each other? Yes, they would. They are the same. So if we're on both sides and we're the same, we are corresponding. And the last example I'm going to do with you for this one, example 1, here's X and here's Y. So inside, outside, or both? We are inside. Remember, if we're inside, we next ask ourselves, are we neighbors or opposites? were opposites. Okay, so if we're inside an opposite, our answer is alternate interior. Very good. All right, so you're going to have problems like this on your assignment where you're going to be identifying each relationship, and it is multiple choice. All right, let's move on to, how are we doing on time? I might have to make 2 videos. I do apologize, y'all. I guess I'm kind of teaching slow right now. Let's move on to angle relationships with missing angles. Now, this is something special these angles do. And this only occurs whenever the lines have these kind of arrows on them. This means that they are parallel. Remember, that was a vocab word from last week. They had arrows on them, meant they're parallel. When they're parallel, something special happens with all of our families. Okay? So we're going to talk about what happens with our families. So our first family we have is our corresponding angles. We already know that corresponding means they're in the same spot. But what happens with our corresponding angles when they're parallel? They end up being equal. Yay! Next we have our alternate interior. All right, and what happens with our alternate interior angles whenever they're parallel? They're equal. Yay! Next we have our alternate exterior. And what happens with our alternate exteriors whenever they're parallel? Oh my goodness, guess what? They're equal. Yay! But of course, our same side interiors have to be a little complicated, but not too complicated. So same side interior, whenever they are parallel, they're going to be supplementary. Well, what does that mean, Miss Nelson? That means they're going to add to equal 180. Now, what's the trick I tell all my students when working with these problems? You want to ask yourself if they're neighbor or not neighbor. And why would you ask yourself that? Well, if they're neighbor, they're going to equal 180. If they're not neighbor, they're just going to equal each other. Okay? I'm going to stop our part 1 video now. Part 2 video is going to do examples using our neighbor, not neighbor, and also showing you how to set up the algebra equations. Okay?